Always tell your story. Always show up. It doesn't matter if you're near hysterical or crying. You never know what's going to happen. I got carjacked, and that's how I got that first job. So it really was very random. Barely anybody gets success right out of the gate. Most of it is relationship based. So you can't expect that you're going to get a project next week if you just started marketing today. Get away from the minutia in the construction details. They don't care. Instead, talk about how it impacted that family. What are they doing right now? How did that change their world? That they can identify with. The very first thing that I think people should do is they should identify their goals. Once they know that, then they can sort of break things down and figure out, like, are there any conferences that I can go to? Who's a good partner for this? Be realistic. It is better for you to post once every 2 weeks than to get burnt out after a week and annoyed because it's interrupting your billable hours, and so you just hate it and won't go back to it. Forget it. You don't have to do that. A lot of what really contributes to the success is
architects. Are you looking for new ways to grow your business and find new opportunities in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry? Welcome to Bertflux Talks, a podcast where we explore fresh ideas, insights, and strategies to help you succeed. Our industry is changing fast, and staying ahead means trying new approaches. That's why we are talking to different architects, software providers, marketeers, and sales professionals to bring you the latest tips and tools. Our goal is to help you tackle business growth challenges and make the most of the opportunities available. At Bertflux, we believe in the power of working together. We want to overcome industry fragmentation and build connections that benefit everyone. Each episode of Bertflux Talks is designed to tackle real challenges in the AEC industry. We'll share practical advice on client awareness, acquisition, and management to help your firm thrive. Now, let me introduce our first guest, Barbara Gates. Barbara has over 25 years of experience as a marketing consultant, helping architects and designers stand out. She uses her unique EDGE framework, which stands for Engage, Develop, Guide, and Excel, to craft marketing strategies that truly connect with audiences. In this episode, we'll discuss client acquisition, or techniques for attracting and securing new clients; project showcasing, meaning the power of storytelling and data-driven marketing; and client relationships, the importance of human interactions where clients feel they are part of the story and have a seat at the table. Barbara's insights will provide valuable guidance for anyone looking to boost their marketing efforts and grow their architecture business. Now, I would like to kindly ask you to support us in this journey. Your support helps us bring in amazing guests and continue providing the insights and knowledge you need to grow your business and ensure the future success in the AEC industry. Without further ado, let's dive into Bertflux Talks with Barbara Gates. Thank you so much, Barbara, for accepting my invitation, and welcome to Bertflux Talks.
thank you. I am very excited to be here, so thank you for the invite.
So, Barbara, can you tell us about your earlier career and how you got started in architectural marketing?
Sure. It was completely a fluke to begin with, but my very first job that I ever got ended up being in an architecture firm. I knew absolutely nothing about architecture at the time, outside of what I learned from Mike Brady from the Brady Bunch, which was absolutely nothing that was valid, I later learned. So I just went into this environment not having any idea what it was about, but I loved the creativity. And so I was at my first firm for 2 years and moved on from there. And I really only left for a couple years in between there to see what it was like. And I was like, I've got to get back. I missed the creative environment. I missed everything. So I came back. So it was an accident that I got in to begin with, but it's very, very purposeful that I am still here. I really, truly do love the work.
That's great. But you mentioned that you were working for an architectural company. Was it like a small, medium, or big size company?
My very first one was at a very small firm. And that one probably had about 15 people. And then I moved to one that in the location here had about 150 people, but they had multiple locations. So it was quite a difference going from the small one to the larger one that worked internationally as well. So it brought a whole number of different challenges and opportunities with it.
So why you decided to work in marketing? Because I'm not sure if all the architectural firms are working on their marketing, especially like, for example, small sized companies. So can you tell us why you decided to work in this field?
My start was atypical. I was actually on my way to happy hour to meet a friend, a new friend who was an architect, and I got carjacked on the way. And it was one of the craziest things I have ever experienced. And I went to happy hour, of course, because I was 24 years old and, priorities. And when I walked in, I was pretty hysterical, found my friend with like 15 people that I did not know were going to be there. But I had just had this crazy experience. So I just relayed the whole entire thing. And it turned out that it was basically their whole entire firm. So I told the the tale to, a whole bunch of architects, and they were really impressed with how I handled myself and how I told the story. And I met the marketing director when I was there, and she told me to apply because she thought that I would be a good fit for the industry, based just like on how the whole entire thing happened. So it was super random that I got into it. I mean, I knew absolutely nothing about architecture. I just went to meet my friend. But, based on this crazy experience, there it was. I do like to say, though, it was an accident when I came in, but it's very deliberate that I am still here. So that's lesson number one. And lesson number two is always tell your story. Always show up. It doesn't matter if you're near hysterical or crying or, you never know what's going to happen. I got a stiff drink and a job out of it. It was my first adult job. So that's how I ended up in marketing.
I actually love this story because, as you know, like storytelling for architects is most important aspect.
Yes.
Because any project that you are doing, no matter what, if you want to present it, if you want to sell it, if you want to showcase it in any way, you have to work on the storytelling. So I can imagine why they hired you. I would hire you, definitely.
Yeah.
Even I told you before that you're extremely good when you're explaining the story or something. It's just like it's easy to go through the path, through the journey that you want your audience to come with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually fascinating.
Yeah.
What are in your opinion, what are the primary challenges architectural firms face in terms of, for example, marketing activities, because they are not focusing on marketing activities? And how do you think you can help them, or an architectural marketeer can help them?
Well, they should always be focused on marketing. I'm sure they're tired of hearing that, but like when you're busy, that's the perfect time to do it. And you should just always do it for sure. Some of the biggest challenges that they are facing is it's really a different world since COVID. It really is. I mean, people have smaller attention spans, smaller tolerance for everything. And so you really have to be more efficient in getting your point across. And they don't have time for it. I mean, they're just as busy as the architects are. And, when you're thinking about them reviewing proposals or trying to find someone or whatever, they don't have time for this either. So you really need to make everything as easy as possible for the client. And that's sort of at the core of everything that I do. It's all very client focused, and it's all about making it easy for them. Nobody wants to work with somebody who's making their life harder. So like if you can show them before you're actually even working for them that, this is how I do things, I'm going to actually make your life easier. It helps a lot. That can be a challenge though, when it's not what you do all the time and you don't really have time for it. And you're trying to squeeze it in between client meetings and, preparing for this and that. And, it's tough for a lot of people to get grounded and, take the time to do things like that, because a lot of what really contributes to the success is the personal connection and the taking the time to show that like you're not an afterthought. You're not just the next one, like you're a real person. I see you for this. And, the acknowledgement of that is really the biggest thing that can make the difference.
Mm-hmm. Most of the architectural companies, they are getting the project based on referrals,
yes.
Right? So how do you think they can change this approach? Because if they are getting project based on referrals, it means that one day you can get a project, another day you might not get a project, and you have to deal with a lot of problems, a lot of expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So how they can guarantee that they can get new projects based on marketing activities, and how they can increase the chance of getting new projects?
The very best thing that they can do is start doing marketing now when they don't need it, because barely anybody gets success right out of the gate. Most of it is relationship based, and this is the long game, so you can't expect that you're going to get a project next week if you just started marketing today. So the best thing that any of them can do is start doing things right now. So they're starting to build the visibility, they're starting to get more people aware of them. And there's a lot of amazing stuff that people can do, because if they're getting referrals, that means they're doing a good job. So, they can be posting, studies about it. They can tell stories about, what happened on a project. There's a lot of stuff that they can leverage that shows their work and their relationships with the clients and how they worked with them on the process and things like that, which I think is really, really important. But if they do that now, then when somebody's looking, because people don't only look for 5 minutes, like in the very beginning, they only kind of, know what they want. And then their interest in awareness, grows as they're getting closer and closer to it. So if you can be on their radar, in contributing to, their thought process as they're trying to figure things out, they're gonna think that they know you, and they're gonna already know all these great things about you without even having to check. And that's the very best thing to do, is just start posting about it. Do case studies, on a small scale, but do it for the non-architect. Don't do it for, your competitor. That's not going to help you. Do it for the person who doesn't know anything about it at all, and tell the story in a way that will make sense to them. Get away from the minutia in the construction details. They don't care. Instead, talk about how it impacted that family. What are they doing right now? If you're talking about like doing an addition on a house or whatever, like how did that change their world? That they can identify with. So when you put the story and the emotion in there, that's where you can grip the people, and then they'll come back. And because they want to see the next thing that you say.
So imagine I'm like working, or I'm the founder of a small business, a small architectural firm. So I'm coming to you and I'm asking for help. So what are the first steps I have to take, considering that I don't have much, let's say, financial resources or specific people to be responsible for the side of marketing activities? So what are the steps that I have to take in order to get better, at least throughout the year, and be more visible and get more exposure?
Well, the very first thing that I think people should do is they should identify their goals. What are you trying to accomplish? Because otherwise you can work really hard towards something else and accidentally, waste all of that effort, and nobody wants to do that. So, really think about what it is that they want to do. If they want to change industries and try and get work in, a market that they're not working in right now, that's a very different effort than just becoming more known in the community. Both of them are possible, but, it's just where you spend the time. So once they know that, then they can sort of break things down and figure out, like, are there any conferences that I can go to? Who's a good partner for this? Because a lot of times what can help the firms that are just trying to get competitive work for the first time, because they've done such a great job with referrals, which is not a bad thing, is to partner with someone. And not everybody loves that, but it is the gateway in a lot of cases, where if you team with another firm, even if you are not the lead, it gets you that experience. It's the stepping stone that you need in order to be able to do it yourself. And so just starting to build those relationships and thinking about your network, look at the other people in the industry, consultants that you've worked with, things like that, reaching out to them and letting them know. That's probably the number one thing, is let people know. People don't know that you are, not swimming in work. You have to tell them that you are looking for work, you're looking for help. People like to help. And so just making sure that people are aware that you're available, you can help, this is what you do. So I would say that's number one. Then really think about what you can realistically do. That's what I'm going to say, because so many times the problem is that people will be all gung-ho for like 2 weeks and then it's done. And that is just such a waste. Like, be realistic. It is better for you to post once every 2 weeks on social media than to get burnt out after a week and annoyed because it's interrupting your billable hours. And so you just hate it and won't go back to it. Forget it. You don't have to do that. It's better to do it the way that you can. You will build your confidence. You will build your skills in whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's posting on social media or, networking with people, whatever it is, as you go along. And then you can inch up from there. But it's kind of like working out. Nobody's going to tell you to go run a marathon. They're going to tell you to walk around the block first. They need to walk around the block first.
Awesome. Great answer. So what do you think about like this marketing channels? So what is the best marketing channel for, let's say, a small, medium-sized architectural firm?
Well, this too kind of depends on their goals in their markets because different people are in different places. But as a general rule, I would say that LinkedIn is the
Okay.
number one platform just because that one is the one with the more professional focus. So a lot of their potential clients, if it's someone from a school district or something, um, they may not be on any of the other ones. They may only be on that one. So that one is really the number one. That said, I would say Instagram as well, but I would put that as a like way further down second. The visual aspect is amazing. And so you can use it for that. But again, if you think about like who are their clients, not their competitors, who are their clients? And it might be the lady from church and the kindergarten teacher. Like, where are they? There's some merit to Pinterest because of that, because a lot of people are on there, but it's a little bit different kind of thing. But you can't assume that because they are so visual that everyone else is going to go to where they are because they're visual. A lot of them just will never even give that a thought at all. So you have to figure out like where the people are. And it's primarily the professionals that I would advocate for in this.
And what is the most useful type of content that they can provide? Is it like, for example, let's say a document, a video, like a short video, an architect is explaining what is their approach? Because as I read, like you have to have a really clear competitive advantage. You have to have a really clear vision and a solution that you want to bring to your client. So how they can present it in the best way, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the best way is for them to be on video because then they can see who they are. And that is a tremendous advantage. It also shows that what you want to do is you want to connect with the client. So anything that you can do to accomplish that is great. And I would say that. But there are some challenges with working with architects that are very, very well known. Sometimes they have too much of an ego. Sometimes they will kind of steamroll the clients. This is all known to clients. So a lot of them enter into this a little concerned, And so if you're on video and they can see that, oh, you don't seem like that kind of guy at all. Like you're actually explaining things in a way that I understand and you're not using all the terminology and you just seem like someone that I could work with. That is the number one thing that you could do because, these are not 2-week working relationships. These go on for a very long time. So you can understand why, they want to be as thoughtful as possible. It's not just hiring someone that you never talk to and then you're done in 2 weeks. Like this is a couple years in a lot of cases. And, if it's not a good working relationship, then it's a lot. They don't want that. So yeah, just going on and talking like a regular person, just explaining it like you would to someone who knows absolutely nothing about it can get you so far because that is something that they want. I've talked to a lot of them. A couple of years ago, I spent a lot of time talking to my clients' clients, and I was stunned at how much they were talking about that, how they wanted an architect that they could just have a regular conversation with. That is really revealing to, hear things like that. So, that's one of the things that I encourage people to do more than anything is just like be a real person, like don't just talk about that. Ask them how their dog is, there are so many different ways that you can connect with them. But if they can see that you're real and what you're like, that can be like the game changer. Because when it comes down to it, when they are choosing someone, everybody can do it. So they're looking at people where like they're not really going to do a bad job at choosing because everyone can technically do the job. Who do they want to spend the time with? So give them a reason to hire you. Like that's the number one right there.
That's an awesome advice. As I mentioned, I was an architect before, so yeah, this is exactly true. Every time that we had a conversation or something, it was only about the architecture, architects, everything that you're doing within your projects, and etc., etc. So you're saying that a personal connection is much more stronger or has more value than, for example, talking only about like professional experiences or ideas or whatever.
Yes, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Yes. Especially now because, there's the internet. Anybody can look people up and get at least a base foundation of what they're like and what their skills are. But again, most of the time, if you ever get invited to a proposal and things like that, most of the time, well, not always, but most of the time, everybody who shows up can do it. So that's not even what it's about. What is your approach? How do you work with them? So from that perspective, yes, talking about the work, but do it in a way where it's really framing it about them so they understand the process, because they're involved in this too, and it's a couple years. And I'm telling you, a lot of them, are challenged by this kind of thing. They want to know that they're going to be heard. They want to know that they actually have a seat at the table, and, they're not handing everything over as soon as the project starts. And so when you can just put in little details, even really about that, it can be your normal process, but just put in a line that's, telling them, like, we prioritize our clients. We want you at the table. We want to know, like, your thoughts. We want your ideas, and we want your feedback, and let them know that they'll be heard. And that can be one of the most powerful things that you can do.
Great. Can you explain also about the EDGE framework and how it helps architectural firms stand out? So EDGE, what is it? And basically how it works.
The EDGE framework is something that I developed after, about 25 years now of working with architects. And it's really all based on what we were just talking about, because connection is at the core of absolutely everything that I do. You have to have the connection with the client. So EDGE is engage, develop, guide, and excel. And it's really just a way to break down any of the tasks that you might be doing so that they are less overwhelming, and to keep key elements of it in mind as you're going forward. So, I know that not all architects love working on marketing, and that's fine. I completely understand why, but a little reminder, like, okay, it is priority one that we engage that client. We have got to get them on board with what we're doing. We have to get them listening, understanding, all of that. So, like, right away, that's the very first thing you have to do, whether you are networking or you're sending a proposal or anything else that you're doing. By the way, this can apply to all of the work tasks as well, not just marketing. And then you are developing the process with them and their involvement so that they are involved, the whole entire time, and they know what's going on. And then you're guiding them along the way, because now you can, sort of like, you can take over a little bit more. You got the buy-in. They know that you're on the same team, so you can shepherd the process a little bit more. And we're always aiming to excel. You want to, you want to really blow their minds every single time. And so just keeping those things in mind, that you need to engage them. You need to have them on board. You need to help them, develop everything. And then you can guide them. But don't try and guide them from day one. It's not going to go very well. If you do a little bit of work on the front end, then it goes much, much further. And all of that, of course, boils down to communication. Like, you have to communicate with them and authentically try and connect with them. And that is where you get the most traction, because that's what they want. I mean, people hire people. That's what I always say. And so when you help them understand how to do things, and you show that you appreciate them and that you actually want them there, it can be a real, real game changer.
Mm-hmm. And what is the best way of communication with the clients, and how it should be done?
That's a little tough to answer because it kind of depends on the client. So I would say just being incredibly transparent with everything is point number one. Just like always communicate, always, always, and get them in the loop and be authentic about it, because they can see when you're not too. So you definitely want to, be real about things. But that aside, it really kind of depends on the person. I mean, I love observing people. I've spent many decades, longer than I've even worked in this, just observing people, because I want to know what makes them tick. And it actually helps with marketing a lot. I ended up getting certified in one of the personality profiles because I wanted to be able to break it down more. Because some people hate talking on the phone, hate it. Well, don't call them. Don't have your routine, marketing thing be that you will call your clients once a month, which, by the way, is what a lot of people do. Well, a lot of them are really upsetting, these people, and they're not getting any traction because it's the wrong thing. For someone who's like that, send them an email. They're going to like that a whole lot more. Some people just don't want to talk on the phone. Some people hate their inbox and they would rather talk on the phone. They like being around people a lot more. So those are the people that you call on the phone, where you can end up getting in a conversation and things like that. And there are some easy ways that you can, do at least a preliminary, identification of like what kind of person they might be, and you can make some guesses based on that to figure it out. You can just ask them once you get to know them, but that helps a lot. It really does, because certain personality types really do tend to gravitate towards some things versus others. And again, this comes back to just doing what works best for them. And you always just want to make it easier, not make it harder, and definitely not piss them off.
Yeah. And do you think this client relationship should remain also powerful after you did the project? So after the project is done, because usually, for example, if I design a house for a client, I think it's over. Most of the time, you're not in contact with that client anymore, making sure that everything is all right or not. Are you happy with the project, etc., etc. So, what do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. You should maintain the relationships, because you never know when they might need some additional work. You might have an opportunity to do more for them, and they can refer you. So the best way that you can tell their story and tell your story in the process, which is always the, ideal situation, is to have their involvement. I'm sure they are very proud of whatever it is that, you accomplished together. So let them enjoy that. If you want to post a story about it, let them see their name in it if they want that. I have to get permission first, but let them see that. Let them be able to share it and be like, yeah, this is my new house. What do you think? Like everybody likes that kind of thing. And so showing that you want to maintain that relationship helps as well. But then helping them out like that, like it's a nice thing to do. People appreciate it. They want to brag about stuff too. And it's a great way to get exposure. The more as you hit their whole entire feed, there may be someone there who's like, wow, I always wanted a little cubby hole under my stairs like that. Who is that guy? I'm going to call him. You never know where your next client is going to come from. So you should just be ready, for that to happen, and make it easier for any of those people, because it could literally be anyone.
Awesome. Can you share any successful case study or example of marketing strategies that have significantly improved client engagement for your clients?
This is a tough one to answer, I got to be honest, because marketing is the long game. The ROI on marketing is not quick. And that, I know, is a challenge for a lot of people, which I completely understand, of course. But it's different than if I were like a social media master. Like, I help clients with social media, but that's not all I do. And I never make promises like, I'm going to triple, your clients in 3 weeks. Like you get with a lot of, like email programs and things like that. I can't do that. There are so many variables, because we're talking about the human factor. When you throw humans into anything, it throws a wrench in things. You just never know what's going to happen exactly. But the very best things that you can do is those connections with people. And one of the ways that I do that is with my Edge profile, which is where the Edge framework actually came from. After I'd been using it for a while, I decided to adapt that. It's a profile that I came up with, a profile book that basically replaces like your firm profile or statement of qualifications type of book that most firms have. Because I probably did this about the 20-year mark. I kept hearing architects saying, it's like the client didn't even look at it. If they only saw what was in there, they would hire me. They're really not seeing, like what I bring to the table. And there is some validity to that. I mean, I was an in-house marketer for 20 years. I sat there next to them working on these projects. So, I know how much effort went into it. I worked on a lot of those. And in some cases, that was true. What they need is it needs to be as easy as possible for them. And a lot of firms are using documents that were created by the old partners or, 15 years ago or whatever, because there's time and expense with redoing all of that. So they're trying to, just keep using what they have. And in reality, it's old. It has huge blocks of text. It's not pulling out stuff that they care about and they want to know about. And so the Edge basically turns it on its head. It's 10 pages or less. It's everything that the client wants, and it's talking directly to them so that it draws them in right away and gets them to understand who you are and that, yeah, you're the one who can do this. by the end of it. And I did that because it was fair, between the attention span and stuff that wasn't really speaking to them and had too much text and stuff like that without the right focus. That was a real challenge. So there are a couple clients that I worked with that were like brilliant people, but the work that they do is really hard to explain. And that's hard. That's hard for anybody, but it's really hard when your next client could be anyone. Because how do you do this then? Because if it could be the kindergarten teacher or the lady from church or the guy in the grocery store, like how are you talking to all of these people at the same time? And so if you've got, a market or a type of work that is a little bit more challenging, that can be a real challenge. And that's one of the things that I tend to be really good at, is simplifying really complicated things and making it easy for the average Joe or Josephine to understand. And so that's what it does. It just really breaks it down. And so there are two people in particular where they were really struggling. They would have a conversation with someone and they would be totally on board. Like, yes, I want to talk to you. They would send the brochure and that was the end of it, because they got lost. They couldn't follow what was happening. And in that case, John started getting all his calls back. He started getting returns after that because the people understood it now. It was like, oh, okay. They understood it when he said it. They just weren't seeing what was in there. And so that's what this does, is it spells everything out. For example, project pages, I don't love them presented as project pages. So I present them as solution pages, because anyone who's looking at it, do they care that the school was in, whatever city? The name in the city is usually at the top. That matters to the people that live right there, not to anybody else. And it only matters to them for like just a second. But if what you did was increase efficiencies and, like redevelop whatever, if you put that stuff at the top, the stuff that matters to the person who's looking at it, they're going to see themselves in it. And they're going to say, oh, yeah, that is me. And they're going to read what it is. And they're going to figure out how it applies, because they already know that they need the thing that's at the top. And so that's what the whole thing is about. And that has worked really well for my clients that have done it, because it takes no time at all. You go through it, you see yourself, and you're like, yes, okay, they do this. Awesome. Of course, the whole entire time, it's also weaving in that you are amazing and that you are the one who should be doing this, just in a more subtle way that they don't necessarily see right off the bat.
As you mentioned, it really depends what goal a company has for their marketing activities, but how you can have some sort of measures to understand if you're doing correct in terms of marketing activities or not. So, for example, maybe the number of followers of LinkedIn, I don't know, the people that approaches your company, how we can measure that and how we can get these signals that our marketing activities are successful.
Well, I think the one metric that a lot of people are familiar with is the hit rates or success rates of proposals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you can apply that elsewhere. So you can look at how many you submitted on, how many of those you won. Like that's about the most basic one, but I think most people probably track that one at least. You can do a similar thing across the board. So if one of your goals is to have more LinkedIn connections of value, I would say, not just connections just to get more connections, but if you actually want to be engaging with them, you can apply a similar metric where you're keeping track of how many have connected, what you did to get them to connect. If you're doing multiple things, how many times did you reach out? Did they reply back? Just so you can start to see what's working and what's not. That can really be done across the board, just to see like how much effort you're putting in versus what you're getting back, basically, at its most basic level. And in a lot of cases, I would say it doesn't really need to be a whole lot more complicated than that, because nobody should be taking on 6 new things at once. Like, absolutely not. They should start one thing, get comfortable with it, and then move on, and see what you're good at. That's the other thing that I would say is, as a quick aside, do what you naturally do well, and you will have much more success. You will be better at it, and it will hurt a lot less. Marketing doesn't have to suck. It doesn't. You just need to do the things that actually work for you, and you will be so much better at it. Like, if you are not good at messaging people, don't do that. Don't. It doesn't matter if people give you templates. It's going to seem really insincere. Do it a different way. call them on the phone then or whatever. I know what I said earlier, but in general, you need to do what works for you, and that's how you're going to do it. But just like effort out versus what you're getting back would be the first metric that I would do for sure.
What do you think about the future of marketing in architecture industry, and in terms of technological advancement, where are we going with it?
I think that there will be more people online on social media. That's not playing a giant role in the industry right now. A lot of people don't do a ton with that, but it's the quickest and easiest way to reach a large audience. So I do think that things will be more significant there. But I really don't think that the future of marketing and architecture has anything to do with technology at all. I think it has to do with connecting with people, because as things continue to go on, that part's not going to go away. Like the world is kind of crazy, and that is not slowing down. And I don't think it, I certainly don't anticipate it to. So people are always going to be looking to connect, and you can be the bright spot in somebody's day just by not being the jerk that they have to work with. I mean, that's a really powerful place to be. And I think that is where the future of it is. In writing things so that they understand it. So they're not like, so they don't feel stupid, and, just simplifying things, making it easier for them and being a nice part of their day. That's where I think ultimately it's going to be, because the skills are there. They can hire somebody else who can do it. Even if you can, it's going to come down to the personal stuff, I think, because the world just keeps getting crazier. And if you can provide a break from that, that is a very powerful advantage.
Now, if just consider if I'm a marketeer in architecture industry, I want to start it. What are the things that I have to remember when I want to start working with a company? I want to explain the benefit, or what are the things or do's and don'ts that I have to consider when I want to collaborate with a architectural firm?
The number one thing is it is not about you. That's it. And that's for the marketer looking at the firm, and that's the firm looking at the client. It needs to be client focused. That's the most important thing they need to do. And anyone who's going in cold, I would say find out realistically what the firm does. I understand why people try and, sometimes fudge things a little bit or really show themselves in the best way. We can show you in the best way even better if we really know what's going on and the reality of things, because there's so much undiscovered information and talent that architects don't focus on. And if they go in and they try and find out some of that, that is where you can get the most bang for your buck. I call it your U factor. It's the combination of your personal and professional, because that's where you can build those connections and really show the whole person that you are. I say people should show up as themselves, personalities, warts and all, because that is what clients want. They want the real people. So I would encourage them to go in and try and get the real story, not the whitewashed one about how you've done perfect on every single job. It's been amazing. They will love it. Tell them about a mistake that you made, because if you tell them a mistake that you made and how you recovered from it, they'll understand that it's not the end of the world if something happens, because things happen all the time, and they'll know that you don't freak out. And, it's just, this is what happens. No problem. I mean, it's sort of like when you're in a job interview and you have to give a bad situation type of thing. It's a similar premise. It's really powerful to do that. It can end up showing you in the most positive light, from anything. But just going in and not trying to stretch things and trying to get them to show who they are as people. That is where I think they can get the most to build those connections, because that's what it ultimately comes down to.
And do you usually, like when you want to get a new client, do you go to their firm and talk to them directly, or it's usually behind the laptop and through emails? And how do you make that relationship with them?
For architects seeking other clients?
Yeah, if you want to, for example, work with an architectural firm in terms of their marketing activities, and you support them or you help them with that.
Oh, for me personally. Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
It's almost always done remotely now, which is really fun, because I get to meet a lot more people that way. Mostly it's people who end up contacting me because I don't force people to do anything. I will work with people when they are ready for it. And, if they are ready for like my type of personality, which is, very, very client focused and communication focused and things. So I will reach out to people, and I love to reach out to people and comment on things that are going on. So I may see someone's website and be like, wow, that is a really cool image. I love this in it, or see a blog post that is noteworthy. So I will contact them and, compliment them on it and ask them, how it's going, how's business? How you doing? Not pitching them, just asking, genuinely asking, because I'm not going to, people will work with me when they're ready. So that's how I typically reach out, but how I end up working with them is usually they contact me. Sometimes they have tried working with someone else and it wasn't a good fit. Sometimes it's too salesy elsewhere and they're looking for something that feels more authentic. I get a lot of that. Sometimes they will have seen my videos and they're like, you just seem like a real person. And so that's appealing to them. And I love hearing that, honestly, because this isn't what you guys do, like you weren't trained in marketing. And so of course you don't know how to do it, but you don't need to feel bad about that. It's like going to a dentist or something. That's what they do. Like no one expects you to be a dentist. No one expects you to be a marketer either. And you don't need to feel bad about it. You can just feel supported and then look really awesome in the end as a result. And that's what I try and go for.
Awesome. So, what are your future plans and goals in terms of like what you're doing now? If you want to see like the vision, or if you want to picture the image that you have in mind for what's going to happen for you, for your business, in terms of these marketing activities, what are those?
Ooh, I love this. I want to have a more expanded focus on the edge. Because that is really like at the core of everything that I do, which is why I did it in the first place. So if you work with me on anything else, you're still getting, like the essence of that with that work. It doesn't matter if we're writing a one-time email or doing that book or preparing you for an interview. It doesn't really matter. It's the core of it is there. So what I would like to do is expand that a little bit more to get more people on board with it so they understand that that is so helpful, because that is such a challenge. The connection building in general can be a real challenge for people, but just understanding the importance of it and how easy it actually can be. I just want to expand that a little bit more, make it easier for people to understand, buy into. It also makes their lives so much easier when they do it. And so, but they just need to know that a little bit more. So I will probably do things on a slightly bigger scale in more of like a group setting sort of thing versus the super intense one-on-one where, they get their new profile book that like redefines everything for them and makes them look really good in a week. That's a little bit different. Can't do that on a super large scale, but I can talk to, like larger groups and help get them on board and, identify their you factor and things like that. That is really, really fun to do that. I love that part too, because every single time, without fail, they discover things about themselves that they didn't realize, and they remember who they are. They remember why they love design, because this is something that I've noticed too that really honestly makes me very sad. So they're working their way up in the food chain, right? Like they're almost at a principal level, or maybe they're there now, and work is not as much fun anymore because now they have all this business stuff and now they have to do marketing, and they're not doing that much design anymore. And you can see it because I grew up with a lot of these people. We were all, there was a group of us that were in our like early 20s when we started, and then they left and started their own firms and everything. And so I watched it, and they come out of architecture school with healthy egos, we'll say that. But then like the light dims a lot as they go along because they have all these other responsibilities. And so when I help to identify their you factor, which again is the mix of the personal and the professional that the clients can really appreciate, they remember. And, it's really, really fun to see that, to see the spark come back and for them to understand how good they actually are. There's something that my grandma used to call old hat. And that's something that it's just too close to you. You can't see it. If you do something all day, every day, it does not feel amazing to you. It's just what you do every day. But it's amazing to the person sitting next to you or the client that, wants to hire you, but you can't see it. So you don't even think to mention it because it's just what you do. There's so much stuff like that architects never talk about because they're like, well, what's the big deal? I do that all the time. Yeah, but even the guy sitting next to you in your office can't do that. It's a big deal. And so finding ways to leverage all of that and just remind them again, from that perspective too, like who they are and how special what they do really is. It just boosts their confidence so much that also can be a real game changer, because then they enter a room differently when they're like, yeah, not being cocky about it, but just recognizing everything that they actually offer and have learned.
That's so fascinating. Thank you so much, Barbara. It was an awesome session. I learned a lot already about what you're doing as a architectural marketeer, or as an expert who are helping firms in marketing activities. So do you have any final thoughts or messages you'd like to share with our audience?
I think this is very similar to what I said before, but the number one piece of advice I would give people is to, kind of goes back to my carjacking story. Show up. Just show up. You don't have to be perfect. I've literally heard this from your clients that they prefer imperfect people than people who try and act like they're perfect all the time. So just try things. Try things. If you want to try a new social media strategy or whatever, just try it. You can stop. You're not signing up for it forever. Just do it, even if you don't feel ready for it. And just show up and just be a real person so that they can see who you actually are. And that will go so much farther to getting you where you want to be, because those are the people that they're going to follow. The non-architects who are looking at your stuff, if you post even a random video talking about your dog, everybody knows that I have dogs because I post about them a lot. That's not a bad thing. That's, people come back and see things like that. So just be yourself, warts and all, and you're going to have more success. And just try it. You can always stop.
Great advice. Thanks again, Barbara, for everything. And thanks for joining me in this Birdflux Talk session.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity very much. It was fun.